This video will cover my issues with Final Fantasy VII Remake, or FF7R for short. I will be divulging spoilers, so if you haven't played the game yet, you probably shouldn't watch this video. There's been a lot of controversy regarding the ending of FF7R. For the most part, people seem to be in agreement that up until the ending, it was an incredibly good game. But was it really that great? Now that I've completed the game, now that I've seen most of what it has to offer in terms of side quests and endgame content, and now that most of all the nostalgia has worn off, it's clear that there just isn't that much of a game here. When you consider how long this game was in production, and when you consider all of the advantages this title had in comparison to other great video games of the past decade, it's pretty clear that this game doesn't have a lot going on. It's a bare bones hack and slash adventure game with 3 towns outside of which there is hardly anywhere to go, nothing really to explore, and barely any side quests, most of which you will quickly complete during the story of the game and are so banal that even Cloud comments on his lack of interest in completing them. It's been getting 5-star reviews, it's generally been received pretty well, but honestly, I don't think it's that good. I think this is 3 stars at best. As a massive fan of the original FF7, which I've replayed more times than I can remember, there were a lot of moments in this game that blew me away. They nailed most of the characters, and for the most part, the story was executed beautifully, apart from the drastic changes that were made. Whenever Square Enix stuck to the original program, the game worked really well. Whenever they tried to introduce something new, I was reminded of why I long ago stopped playing new installments to the Final Fantasy series. This game wasn't bad. I enjoyed it for the most part, but I feel like it was way overpriced. I pre-ordered it and paid over $100 for the digital deluxe version. I think Square Enix really underachieved with this remake, and in the end, it kinda left me feeling heartbroken. Compare Final Fantasy VII-R to games coming out of studios like CD Projekt Red or Rockstar Games. Hell, even Nintendo. For decades now, we've seen games with massive worlds and sandboxes that you can freely roam and completely explore, with loads of endgame content and replayability. Even if you compare this to some of the maps in Final Fantasy XV, this game did a fairly average job of making something that stands on its own 2 feet without being carried by the fact that it's an FF7 remake. It does a lot right in terms of looking the part and retelling the story, but for a game that's full priced and that took 4 years to make, there's just not enough there to justify it. And it still feels like yet another FF title with nothing much to do once you complete the story, which people seem to be excusing because of the fact that it's just the Midgar portion of the remake, which I don't think anyone would have wanted given the choice, and which just kind of feels like a cop out. Even if you absolutely have to break it up into several installments, they still could have done way more with this remake than what they did. They could have made the entire city of Midgar a giant sandbox from top to bottom. They could have gotten so creative with the gameplay in this, but instead they got creative with the story, which is the one thing you don't want them to mess with. Which brings me to the ending twist of this game. This ending was the embodiment of everything that I have come to hate in storytelling and all the ways in which I feared that Square Enix would ruin this game. Throughout the game, there are these ghosts called the Whispers that keep inexplicably showing up and interfering with whatever's going on, and it completely takes you out of every moment that it intrudes upon. By the final chapter of this game, it's more or less made clear to the audience that these ghosts exist to ensure that the general course of events that occurs follows the same course of events from the original FF7. It's a separate timeline that appears to be interacting with the original timeline, presumably because of some sort of meddling from Sephiroth. And in the final chapter of this game, our party has a showdown with the literal manifestation of destiny, during which they experience flashbacks to events from the original FF7 which haven't occurred yet, like Cloud laying Aerith in the lake at the Forgotten City. And with a collection of comments from the game's characters about the merits of being free to choose their own destiny, alongside a video sequence that basically tells us that Zack is still alive in a different timeline, and an endgame message that basically reads, "We're changing the fucking story." I honestly would not be surprised at this point if Aerith isn't going to die and Cloud, Sephiroth, and Zack are going to team up to fight some meta abstract villain that'll inexplicably show up out of nowhere. Anything is on the table now. When I think about what a great FF7 remake would look like, I definitely agree that it would benefit from expanding upon the original. It would be great to see something that is more than just the exact same game. But there are so many ways that you can do that without changing crucial aspects of the storyline. And for the most part, up until the very end of this game, that's how it played out. So it was really heartbreaking to see that right at the end of this game, they've inserted this change that is going to have massive implications for the rest of the remake. It is possible that this idea could be done well, but so far it was done badly. And I just don't have faith in their ability to pull something like this off when this is their idea of being creative. For a long time, my feeling has been that Square Enix just have no idea what they're doing anymore. It's like they need someone there with a ruler ready to smack their hand every time they come up with a bad idea. No! Bad developer! No! And again, this could work out well, but so far it does come across like really bad fan fiction. It just would have been nice if they could have stepped up, developed this remake in one game, delivered something that at least tried to keep up with the same quality that we see in so many other video games these days, and did it without wiping their ego all over it by messing with the story.